Hold my hand and come along with me through the catacombs of my life, my spirit and my soul, and into the rainbow of my joy and my love to you. Welcome to Come Along, the stories of my life. Well, hello, all you beautiful people here in old little town of Bellingham and in the communities beyond. My name is Mark Allyn, and I decided to resume my work for the Bellingham Radio Society at bellinghamradio.com. They tell me that I need to treat you all you beautiful people out there, as my psychiatrist. You know, when you go into a psychiatrist's office, you lay down in a nice soft sofa, and he tells you to talk and talk and talk and lay your soul bare. Well, I'm doing that. I'm in a very dark, comfortable room somewhere here in Bellingham, and you all are my psychiatrists here in Bellingham, here in Washington State, and of course, here throughout the whole world. So, let's see, here you go. We're going to talk about my life and my feelings ever since I remember consciously where I started, and even some unconscious learnings about my life before I got started. When I was a child, I went to elementary school, like all children, and in the 3rd grade, we had a teacher by the name of Mrs. James. One of our textbooks was a beautiful storybook called Come Along. It was dark green, I remember that. It was a series of short stories for our reading class. We had assignments in it that we performed during the day. No homework, of course. 3rd grade did not have any homework those days. And I loved the book so much, I wanted to read the whole thing on the first day. Well, she knew about that, and she collected all the books. Now, in the 3rd grade, I began to realize that, yes, consciously I knew nothing, but subconsciously there was a beautiful energy there. You have to understand, especially if you missed all my videos, that I have a condition that we now called the Autism Spectrum Disorder, or ASD. We did not know of it as that then. Society was nowhere near as wise on the spectrum of disorders that the human mind can have. But is it a disorder, or is it an enhanced order? Right now, as right now, as I'll tell you later, I am proud of it, and I do not try to stifle its beauty as it shines from my mind. The Come Along book was so wonderful that I decided to call this radio series Come Along. Come along with me through my journeys of my life, and even some things before my life, and some things maybe after my conscious life on earth. So please, gently take my hand and come along with me for my stories. Let's see, to begin. We begin in 1953 at precisely 6 a.m. on Friday, May 8th in 1953. 6 a.m. on a Friday morning in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. There was nothing going on. I think my birth was the most exciting thing that happened that morning. There was no dancing, no concerts, no roller skating party, no ice skating party, no choir singing, no gay pride march, no gay dance, no gay bars. Boy, it was deathly quiet. Well, there was one exciting event that happened. Not like a big giant 20,000 person gay dance, but when I came out of my mother's womb, the umbilical sac did not break. Normally it does break when a baby emerges from the womb of the mother. The formal name of what happened to me is called an NCAL birth. I did a video of it, but if you didn't see it, basically it means not coming out of the umbilical sac at the time of birth. The cynics call it born in the bag. It has some very interesting implications. Wanting to be protected, but being very wise, full of wisdom, that needs to be protected and needs to be respected. There will be a bit more on that later, but perhaps that was the most exciting event in Rocky Mount, North Carolina on that morning. We only spent about 2 years as a family in North Carolina before we moved to the Boston, Massachusetts area. More on that a little bit later. I need to talk about the one and only thing I consciously remember now of my time in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Imagine being in a crib in a tiny bedroom late at night with all lights are out. I was crying mercilessly. I was very, very scared. I was scared of somebody coming after me or something coming after me. I remember total darkness. Then I remember very, very faint blobs of light on the ceiling above my crib. Looking now, could they be merely reflected light from lights on the ground below the second floor window. But here's something else. About the time I was born, actually about a month after I was born, my one and only lover was a man by the name of Arthur Rosenau, whom I met in San Francisco 25 years later. More about all that. However, Arthur was sentenced to 8 years in prison in June of 1953, a little over a month after I was born. Because Arthur became my one and only true love, could Arthur's fear of going to prison, and by the way, he went to prison because he loved a man. Love sent him to prison because of the sodomy laws. Could Arthur have been crying out to me, knowing that he needed love? And perhaps the cosmos knew that Arthur and I would be in love 25 years later. The cosmos allowed Arthur to cry on my shoulders when I was in that crib crying for him on that late that night in the crib. Could that be Arthur's first night in prison for loving a man? Consciously, we don't know. I can fully understand why that would be. Could the clouds that glowed in the sky, these blobs of light in my small bedroom, being in an imaginary sky, could those clouds be a message from the cosmos to take this man to love and use it to heal the man? There'll be a lot about that process later on, but it could be a message saying, hey Mark, you have a true love coming to you in 25 years. Take this crying of fear into your heart. Arthur will need it when he sees you in 25 years. Then the scene faded away. That one time that I remember anything from North Carolina. Now, as I said, we were in North Carolina for only 2 years. I was born with cleft lip, which I needed some serious surgery. The medical skills in Rocky Mount, which is Nash County in North Carolina, was not the best compared to Boston. That's one reason. The second reason is that we were tenant tobacco farmers, and tenant tobacco farmers did not make much money. At the time, there were only 4 of us children. My older brother, myself, and my 2 sisters. My younger brother was not yet born. So it was a family of 6 people with 4 hungry mouths. My grandfather on my mother's side, Mom's father, did not like it. He was way, way up north in Maine, and he really did not like it. He worried so much that he bit his fingernails raw right down to the root. He lost all 8 fingernails. Well, he had to do something about it to get them back. The first thing he did, he decided to underwrite my father's education to become a certified public accountant. That took care of 4 of his fingernails in one hand. He then decided to underwrite the down payment for our home in North Reading, Massachusetts, essentially to get ourselves out of North Carolina. Well, that finally got all of his fingernails grown back, and the pain was finally gone. So we moved to North Reading, a small house on Cedar Street in North Reading, Massachusetts. My grandfather did find Dad's first job in an accounting firm while he worked his way in college to get his degree in accounting from Bentley College, all while he was raising our family of 4 people. So, now there's another story. It may or may not be true, but I treat it as a legend. There was a senator by the name of Jesse Helms in North Carolina. He fought every move by the LGBTQ community. He hated us. When I was born, when I was probably still in my umbilical sac, a private brainwave satellite that Jesse Helms built and owns was cruising through the sky. The satellite was programmed by a very special algorithm, and it picked up the brainwave of a gay baby. That gay baby was me being born. When the algorithm figured that out in the satellite, it sent a radio beam to a very special unit mounted on the credenza behind Jesse Helms' desk in his office. It had a whole bunch of lights on it, and bells and buttons. One of the lights glowed red, and a bell dinged quietly. Jesse Helms, who was working at his desk, swung around and noticed a light on the panel on his credenza. He clucked his tongue in disgust and pressed a button. A special laser beam shot out of that satellite and pierced the brains of my father and my mother. And the laser beam had a coded message: get out of North Carolina. Jesse Helms also noticed a coded rate at which the light was flashing, and he immediately recognized that something else was going on. He pressed a series of buttons, and a big crystal ball arose from the device, and an image appeared. The image was a man sleeping in a cot in a prison cell. He pressed some more buttons, and a message came out of an old teletype machine also located on the credenza. And the message sent, gay man in prison. gay man sending help to this gay baby. This is very bad. Angry, Jesse Helms snapped the teletype machine off and flipped the switch, and the image disappeared from the crystal ball. He was very, very, very angry, but he could do nothing about it. The message was already received by the gay baby, and it's in his beautiful young hands. That is, my hands when I was a baby. Arthur and I are now out of the reach of that evil senator. So maybe that's the why we left, we don't know. When Jesse Helms died decades later, the satellite failed, crashed and burned in the Earth's atmosphere. So let's see, with that gone by, we're now in North Reading, Massachusetts. I remember very little of the house. I do remember when my younger brother was born. I was kind of out of it. Being gifted with autism and not really understanding it and not how to use it, I was kind of lost. I remember the Christmases when we were all cozily seated together on the couch and a professional photographer took our picture. However, I was very, very scared of the flash. I was scared of bright lights. I was scared of lights shining at me. So I always closed my eyes and hid behind somebody's sleeve or shoulder so the light would not shine upon me. Every photograph I have of us in North Carolina when we were seated at the couch for the Christmas family photograph, I was the one who was trying to hide my face from the camera. So I think that's it for this episode. We have a scared little boy in North Reading. So let's come along. We'll continue with the next episode. I don't know what time, but you'll hear it here on the beautiful Bellingham Radio. Well, as I say with all of my broadcasts and all of my videos, let's hold my hand and form a circle with endearing love. I say to you, I love you all.